20 years ago this month, the Steelworkers Union and the Sierra Club signed a joint resolution to form the Blue-Green Alliance, to advocate for the shared priorities of the labor and environmental movements, based on a bedrock belief that we don't have to choose between the jobs and the clean environment. We can and must have both. That belief didn't come out of some academic exercise. It was built over the course of years by union members and environmentalists standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity to fight for trade justice and against trade agreements that enrich multinational corporations at the expense of working people and the planet. In many ways, BGA was born out of the struggle. And that fight continues today. We are here to stop the global race to the bottom on trade and fix the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement for workers and for the environment. The 3 countries of the USMCA are required by its terms to meet and review the agreement every 6 years. 2026 is the first opportunity for review, and July 1st, next week, marks the deadline by which the 3 countries need to set their course, which provides all of us with a real opportunity to reshape North American trade. Let's be clear. The original NAFTA caused enormous suffering for workers and communities across borders, and the USMCA has not fixed it. USMCA was the biggest and most consequential trade deal of President Trump's first term in office, but this agreement has failed to bring jobs pouring into the United States, as he promised, and has instead accelerated the trade deficit and continued the offshoring of American manufacturing. In Mexico, the rights and workers and their wages continue to be suppressed, and environmental protections remain unequal across countries and too often unenforced, while pollution continues to lay waste to communities across borders. But we can write a better deal, a fair deal, to protect workers' rights, encourage clean manufacturing, and raise labor and environmental standards across North America. The details of what we mean by a fair deal are contained in BGA's USMCA platform, endorsed by all of our coalition partners, which we're releasing today. This review provides us with an opportunity for the first time in 6 years to fix USMCA for all of us. We urge the Trump administration to take it, and we urge Congress to make sure they do. We're grateful to the members of Congress joining us today, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Congresswoman Amelia Sykes, and later Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, Congressman Chris DeLuzio, and Congressman Greg Casar, all of whom are joining us in this fight. A special thanks to Congresswoman Sykes, our host, who, we know her constituents have felt the impacts of failed trade policies for many, many years. And another special thanks to Senator Whitehouse for securing this room when the weather didn't exactly cooperate with our plans. Thank you, Senator. And with that, let me introduce my friend, Roxanne Brown, the 10th International President of the United Steelworkers, a steelworker of 27 years, a lifelong advocate for working people in climate action, and one of BGA's founders 20 years ago. Roxanne.
Thank you to the Steelworker Cheering Squad. Good afternoon, everyone. 20 years ago, as Jason said, the United Steelworkers, under the leadership of then International President Leo Gerard, joined forces with the Sierra Club to co-found the Blue-Green Alliance. We did so with a simple but powerful truth. The fights for economic justice, social justice, and environmental justice are one and the same. Leo understood something that still guides us today, that no single movement can win this fight alone. It takes strong, unbreakable coalitions to stand up to multinational corporations and their relentless pursuit of profit at any cost, especially in the wake of trade deals like the original NAFTA. NAFTA was a disaster, period. It allowed corporations to shut down factories in the United States, ship hundreds of thousands of jobs to Mexico and hollow out entire communities. You can see the scars in towns all across this country. Places that once thrived, now left behind. But this wasn't just an American tragedy. NAFTA also enabled the exploitation of workers in Mexico, low wages, unsafe conditions, and the denial of fundamental labor rights. It created a system where workers on both sides of the border were pitted against each other, all while corporations reaped the rewards. And it didn't stop there. Companies used NAFTA to export pollution, dodging stronger environmental protections in the United States and Canada, and taking advantage of weaker enforcement elsewhere. This is the legacy of so-called free trade. A race to the bottom where working people and the planet both pay the price. 6 years ago, we fought for something better. We pushed for a new NAFTA, for a trade agreement that would begin to level the playing field. And while the USMCA made some progress, we all know that it didn't go far enough. Today, too many workers in Mexico are still earning poverty wages. Too many are still fighting just to form independent unions and to be safe on the job. And too many companies are still chasing cheap labor, moving jobs out of the United States while delivering record profits to shareholders. That is unacceptable and it is fixable. Right now, we have a critical opportunity. Through the USMCA joint review, we can rewrite the rules of trade so they finally work for working people and for the environment. And we know what needs to be done. We must strengthen and enforce labor laws in Mexico. We must dedicate real resources to stop anti-union intimidation and hold violators accountable. We must end the offshoring of good, family-supporting jobs, and we must raise wages for workers across North America. This is not radical. This is necessary. For too long, corporations and some politicians have tried to divide us, telling workers and environmentalists that our goals are at odds, that we must choose between good jobs or a healthy planet. We strongly reject that false choice because we know the truth. We cannot have one without the other. If workers don't have power, standards fall for everyone. If the environment is degraded, communities suffer, especially working class communities. That's why our partnership in the Blue Green Alliance is more important than ever. Together we are stronger. Together we can demand that corporations follow the same rules everywhere, that they stop exploiting workers, stop polluting communities, and start acting responsibly. For too long, corporations have written the rules of trade. But this is our moment to take the pen back. We can build a system that puts people before profits, a system that doesn't just ask corporations to do better, but requires it. A system where prosperity is shared, rights are respected, and the environment is protected. Today we honor Leo W. Gerard, not just with our words, but with our action. As he said, it's time for our political leaders to keep their promises, to stand up to special interests and reject the failed ideas of the past. And we are ready. We will work together, we will fight together, and together we will win. Thank you.
Yes, Leo, will you please? I now have the pleasure of introducing Lauren Blackford, who is the 8th Executive Director of the Sierra Club. In addition to being an environmental champion, she has worked throughout her long career in sustainability and community development to make sure local voices are heard
you all. It's so good to be here. Thank you, Congresswoman Sykes, for organizing this terrific event. Senator Whitehouse, for making your hearing room available, and so much more. Thank you to Representatives Kuczynski, Tabucio, Kassar, for joining us to champion our fair and clean trade agenda. Jason, thank you. And Roxanne, as the first woman to lead Sierra Club, and I am so proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as the first woman to lead the steel workers. It is such an honor. As a mom, as an American, I am deeply committed to the fight for a just and livable future with a strong and equitable economy. And I call on everyone here to join us in this, as we've joined together. Partnership is nothing new for Sierra Club and the United Steelworkers. We've been in the trenches together for years. From strengthening the Clean Air Act, to keeping our communities and our workers healthy, to sounding the alarm on NAFTA's potential to hollow out American manufacturing and increase pollution. We are both rooted in power building and know that together we can achieve our loftiest goals. 20 years ago, Leo Gerard and Carl Pope, then the executive director of the Sierra Club, brought our organizations together to found the Blue-Green Alliance. And that work could not be more important than it is today. We knew it was time then to make the relationship official and let the world know that we have common cause. We told elected officials, we told our members that we're united in the fight for good jobs, a healthy environment. Our priorities are not at odds. There are no good jobs without clean air and clean water. Sierra Club's mission for a pristine natural environment means nothing if that's only for the rich. We are not brought together for just one-off issues. We know that clean energy deployment, renewable energy supply chains power the economy. They keep communities healthy, and they fight climate change. Occupational health and safety is non-negotiable. Industry owes that to the workers and to the host neighborhoods. Binding community benefits agreements and environmental due diligence help ensure that those most impacted have a stake and have a say in their futures. Fair working hours, solid benefits, pensions mean workers building the clean economy can spend time away from the factory floor, can enjoy recreation, can take their families to the national parks. These are common sense positions. And right now, we have to fight tooth and nail for those most common sense positions. But to hold back the billionaires intent on making President Trump's corruption the feeding frenzy that they need to pilfer the Treasury and destroy the labor and environmental movements. And we will not let that happen. We are not alone. The Blue-Green Alliance is strong. We're growing. We represent 15 of the most influential environmental organizations and labor unions. That's a marriage of two incredibly powerful movements with tens of millions of people. Now, we all have a stake in the fight to ensure that the USMCA serves workers, communities, and the environment. When Trump signed the USMCA during his first term, he sold us a bill of goods. He said it would bring back jobs and factories. He said it would punish trade cheats. He said it would undo the harms of NAFTA. Well, we're still waiting. Luckily, USMCA includes a review period. America cannot be passive at this moment. Workers, the environment, and the country require a thorough review to ensure this is a deal that serves them. We know that President Trump loves to tout himself as a deal maker who always wins, but American workers and our communities know otherwise. He is failing to use this review period to make any of the much-needed improvements that we and our partners have been calling for. Once again, Trump is not fighting for us. We need to come together. We can come together for strong and binding labor, wage, and environmental standards that are underpinned with real enforcement tools, like rapid response mechanisms that punish companies for low road working conditions and illegal pollution. By doing this, we will tackle the root causes of outsourcing and pollution dumping. We will create jobs and increase wages across the continent, all while incentivizing businesses to care for the environment. But instead of lifting us all up, this administration is destroying bedrock environmental laws and protections. It isn't enforcing labor laws, and instead is assailing the right to organize. Where is the profit for the president in doing right by moms worried about their kids developing asthma, or in doing right by workers worried about putting food on the table? He just doesn't care. Not about inflation, not about union jobs, not about the environment, not about us. But Trump's failure is our opportunity. As long as the agreement persists, the USMCA review process is not going away. The environmental and labor movements are united, and our congressional champions are here and in the fight. We will lift up standards and improve quality of life across the continent. We will create good union jobs. We will push companies to invest in the leading technologies to keep workers and families safe. Together, we will win. Thank you.
I now have the pleasure of introducing our host, Congresswoman Nancy Sykes, who represents Ohio's 13th District, which has a strong history of union manufacturing. Congresswoman Sykes is working tirelessly to expand economic opportunities for her constituents, and we are grateful for her today to host us and join us in this fight. Congresswoman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Amelia Sykes, and I'm proud to serve as a Congresswoman representing Ohio's 13th Congressional District. And it is a pleasure to be here with labor leaders, environmental advocates, and my colleagues as we celebrate 20 years of the Blue-Green Alliance and look ahead to the upcoming review of the United States-Mexico-Canada USMCA. I'll say that for now. For 20 years, the Blue-Green Alliance has shown us that workers and environmental advocates do not have to choose between good-paying jobs and a healthy environment. Communities like mine in Ohio's 13th Congressional District deserve both, as does the other 434 lesser districts. We are seeing efforts to weaken workers' rights, roll back environmental protections, and undermine the very standards that help working families succeed. At a time when the Trump administration continues to take actions that threaten labor and climate progress, Congress, I'll say it again because you do have a job here, has a responsibility to provide oversight, accountability, and checks and balances. The upcoming USMCA review is just one of those places where that responsibility matters the most. Trade agreements are not just about commerce. They affect wages, working conditions, manufacturing jobs, and whether communities like mine can compete on a level playing field, and whether or not they can live their American dream with good-paying jobs and safe communities. Northeast Ohio knows better than anyone. Free trade does not equal fair trade. That's why I joined my colleagues in calling for stronger labor protections through the USMCA review process, including strengthening and expanding the rapid response mechanism so workers have real tools to hold bad actors accountable. It's also why I've supported efforts to strengthen environmental enforcement provisions, because standards only matter if they're actually enforced. Northeast Ohio, where I'm from, the Akron area to be more specific, is unique because most people think of Ohio, they think manufacturing. And they think steel and manufacturing towns like Canton. That would be correct. But we are also home to the Cauca Valley National Park and a Great Lake, Lake Erie. So the work of the Blue-Green Alliance is important for various economic and leisure industries. But we know what happens when the two worlds collide in a not so good way. Northeast Ohio has the unfortunate designation of hosting the infamous Cuyahoga River fire. It was the impetus for the EPA and many other clean water bills. The same chemicals that caught fire on the river were the same ones that sickened and disabled and shortened the lives of workers. So from the PRO Act to the Fair Wages Act and no tax on overtime for all workers, I hear regularly this skepticism about promises in Washington that sound good on paper, but they don't always match up with what shows up in their paycheck, and that's exactly why those three bills matter. I've also worked to help protect clean water and infrastructure through efforts like the WISE Act, the Great Lakes Restoration Act, and protecting waters of the United States. Back home in Ohio, I hear about these issues every day. Workers want fair wages and safe workplaces. Families want clean water, affordable water, and healthy communities. And people want an economy that works for them. That's why this USMCA review is so very important. It is an opportunity to raise standards for workers and the environment, strengthen domestic manufacturing, what we know how to do best, and ensure that trade policy works for the people that we represent, that it is not just free, that it is also fair. And I'm proud to stand with everyone here who is fighting for workers, protecting our environment, and making sure our communities have the opportunity to succeed. I want to say thank you again to the Blue-Green Alliance for having me today, and I will turn the program over to the Senator.
I'll introduce you.
Oh, I will not do that. Thank you again for having me today.
Thank you, Congresswoman. The Senator probably doesn't need an introduction in the committee room, but nonetheless, Senator Whitehouse represents the mighty state of Rhode Island. He is a longtime ally of the Blue-Green Alliance. He has worked tirelessly, relentlessly in the United States Senate to take on the climate crisis and help build a clean economy in the United States, including the leading efforts now to strengthen the environmental provisions and enforcement of the USMCA. Senator.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, Lauren. The Blue-Green Alliance goes back to 2006 when I first got elected. So we've had a long run together. And one of the things that I have immensely enjoyed is our successes together. I would note that a mini Blue-Green Alliance sprang up in Rhode Island when Trump dropped his illegal and corrupt stop work orders on our offshore wind industry. A powerful coalition of labor unions and environmental groups came together to do battle against that, and I can happily say that we won. All of the 5 wind projects that were worked by Trump are back in operation, and the Trump administration has not appealed the rejection by courts of their phony baloney stop work orders. So that alignment that we just saw recently in Rhode Island now exists on the USMCA. There is a terrific trade alignment between labor and environmental issues. And the problem is similar. Basically, foreign countries cheat on their labor standards, foreign countries cheat on their environmental standards, American competition pays the price because the goods that are manufactured with lousy environmental protections and lousy labor protections end up being cheaper. What do you know? So it's really important that as we undertake this joint review of the USMCA, we go to battle to make sure that the provisions for labor enforcement and the provisions for environmental enforcement are strong. Environmental enforcement across administrations has always sucked. That is a technical term that we use here in Congress. So there's a huge step up that is possible for the Trump administration, and we hope that the conversations that we've had with them, public ones, in which they've acknowledged that arbitrage against American standards by foreign competition is a lousy idea and is the reason we have trade protections. So we have this lingering problem of terrible environmental enforcement. Then you can actually move on to the loathsome ISDS, which allows polluters to threaten to litigate and to litigate against countries that impose environmental standards. So there's another battle that we have in front of us. And the obvious solution here is a rapid response mechanism like we have for labor enforcement in environmental enforcement as well. So I hope very much that we can continue to make progress in this space. It is a joy to work with the Blue-Green Alliance. And I'll close by saying what I always say when we're talking about anything even remotely environmental, which is that the climate issue is worth having a fight over. First of all, it does us good as Democrats to have a fight. When word clouds about Democrats say weak and won't fight. We can argue about whether we're weak and won't fight, or we can go have a damn fight and prove it. And I can't think of a better fight to have than with the climate fraud operation, the climate denial fraud operation of the fossil fuel industry, and the dark money corruption operation of the fossil fuel industry, with the stakes as high as they are, with warnings that the economy is headed for a crash, as climate risk makes insurance markets collapse, which collapses mortgage markets, which collapses property values, which leads to recession. Go no further than Florida to see that script already playing out. If there ever was a time for a good old-fashioned fight, this is it. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator. I now have the pleasure of introducing Representative Nikki Brzezinski. Congresswoman Brzezinski it represents Illinois' 13th Congressional District. She is a champion, longtime champion of working families, founder of the Congressional Climate Jobs Task Force, focused on creating good paying union jobs while reducing harmful pollution and protecting the environment for future generations. Nikki, come on.
Great to see you, Jason, and it's an honor to follow Senator Whitehouse as well. I do just want to say this is a really important event that we're having today. The Blue-Green Alliance brings together the perspectives of workers, the environmental advocates, industry leaders, and policymakers who all have a stake in a strong trade policy. It's especially meaningful for me today to be with the United Steelworkers President, Roxy Brown, who's fantastic and a dear friend of mine. I want to say I represent a district in central and southern Illinois. I represent a community called Granite City, Illinois, where Granite City Works is, a steel mill that has been the cornerstone of opportunity and economic growth in my district for generations. Families have built their lives around that mill. Over the past few months, I've stood arm in arm with the United Steelworkers to demand long-term investment in that mill. And time and again, signals from U.S. Steel and Nippon indicated potential closure. But our steel workers fought back, so I am so proud to stand with them again here today. That advocacy paid off, and 450 of those steel workers are back now at work. And our steel workers know better than anyone the importance of good, durable trade deals that support American manufacturing. I've seen the damage that has been done when cheap steel from China undercuts our workforce, and it's quite simply just unfair. And that's why tariffs are an important tool in our toolbox to protecting those workers. But that's not what we're seeing today. Instead, the president has thrust the U.S. into trade wars with its closest allies while cutting tariffs and other trade barriers on trade-cheating countries like China. And American families are paying the price. I've toured small businesses in my district that have described how they have struggled with these very same tariffs. I've met with farmers whose markets have been decimated while the president cuts deals with their competitors overseas. It's becoming increasingly clear that this approach isn't delivering results for working families, which were promised. We need a different path. We need a USMCA that strengthens American manufacturing, protects and expands job opportunities, lowers costs for families, while also accelerating the clean energy economy. The good news is that we can do all of these things at the same time. I've served, as Jason mentioned, as the co-chair of the SEEK Climate Jobs Task Force. Our mission is simple: advance policies that are both pro-worker and pro-climate, ensuring America's clean energy future is powered by good-paying, family-sustaining jobs. And the way we do that, that sound, durable trade policy is how we accomplish that. The USMCA joint review process provides us with an opportunity to revisit portions of that deal that worked and portions that did not. But there are a few principles that I believe are non-negotiable. We need a trade policy that raises wages, strengthens labor standards, and protects the environment. No company should gain a competitive edge through pollution, worker exploitation, or industrial theft. Trade policy should support family farmers, strengthen rural communities, and create a level playing field for workers everywhere. That means enforcing our trade laws aggressively, closing loopholes, and holding bad actors accountable when they break the rules. It also means using tariffs strategically to defend workers, strengthen domestic industry, and protect our economic security, not to hand out special favors or bully our allies. And most importantly, trade policy making must put working people first. The priorities of workers, families, and communities should be front and center in transparent negotiations, not the interests of corporations. Because this isn't just about our economy, it's about the future we want to build and the planet that we leave behind. Thank you for having me, and it's an honor to always stand here with the Blue-Green Alliance, and I appreciate all of your work. Thank you.
Jason, thank you. Great to be with the Blue-Green Alliance and so many of my colleagues. I'm especially pleased to be joined by my union president and constituent, Roxanne Brown from the Steelworkers. Look, this alliance is an important one for so many reasons. You've heard so many talk about it and why it matters. The workers in my district, like workers all over this country, want better trade deals. They want clean air and clean water. These are basic things that we all demand in this country, out of respect for our hard work and respect for our communities. And we've seen NAFTA and NAFTA 2.0 fail on both fronts. Our government, and some people in both parties, over the years voted to ship away good manufacturing jobs. You see that story in so many of our districts. I could drive you along the Allegheny River, out the Ohio River, and you'd learn that same story in my part of the world. And we saw not just a race to the bottom on labor standards, but on environmental standards, on pollution. And these trade deals, again, the renegotiated NAFTA, USMCA, didn't fix it. Trade deficit expanded, we continue to see a loss of manufacturing jobs, and we continue to see foreign competition outsource their pollution and be able to import their goods into our country. So renegotiated USMCA or NAFTA 2.0 has to do better. It has to fix this. It has to address labor standards and organizing rights in Mexico. It has to attack the ability of countries, China first among them, of getting access to the North American free trade market through Mexico. It has to address environmental standards. It has to improve on what Senator Whitehouse described as that enforcement sucks. It sucks on both environmental and labor. It has to have teeth under the support of folks like me. I know I'm not alone in that. So this is an opportunity to have a better trade deal. It doesn't treat workers and their jobs as an afterthought. It doesn't treat our health, our air, our water, our lands as an afterthought. We are maybe the most important market for people to get their goods, for countries and foreign manufacturers to get their goods. We should use that leverage to protect our jobs and our environment. That's what this deal should be all about. I'm proud to join the Blue-Green Alliance in that fight. It is an important alliance of as we work to have better trade deals in this country. Thank you so much.